Hello, CC's Coffee. Looking for sponsorship here.
Albasha Greek restaurant.
Yep.
Look at this guy right here. That's a happy guy right there. It's a good looking character.
My name is Ray, but on my coffee cup they wrote Greg. That's 2 days in a row that's happened to me where I introduce myself as Ray, and it sounds like Greg.
So what are you gonna do when next time you order coffee?
Raymond, I guess is the best way to do it. Does it sound like I'm saying Greg?
No.
Ray?
Ray. My name is Ray.
Ray.
Like Raymond. R-A-Y.
Yes.
Please don't misspell it on my coffee cup.
Or I will freaking...
I'll go ballistic up in this place.
Yes.
Yep. I wonder why do they need your name anyway? I mean, I guess when it's busy
Right.
and there's a lot of people in line, I guess it's just the normal
Right.
everyday practice of what they're doing.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're off, order it and go sit down and do a podcast. They call you up. They hear your name.
Hey, so last time we talked, last week, one of the things that we mentioned was maybe doing a...
Is that a Ferrari?
Very funny.
Sorry.
One of the things that we mentioned was maybe doing a channel, like, introduction, like who we are or whatever.
Okay.
Do you feel like doing that
Sure.
today? Because I could take it and snip that little segment out.
See? I put it into this little hole here and nip the tip. Who's first?
I changed my mind.
I forgot, man. I already got one.
Question.
Okay.
And then
What do you want to say? Just
who you are or whatever you're about, and your thoughts on like what this little podcast is going to entail, like just kind of, some of the stuff we've already talked about and whatever. It's just a temporary kind of introductory whatever background.
so name Ray Pankern.
Greg.
Raymond Gregory Pankern. What am I about? Well, I think faith. So I'm a believer. I believe in Jesus. My wife, so family and kids, and passionate about making a difference. And what I do outside of podcasts with you in your car, I'm a financial planner, so I work in investments and stuff like that. What am I hoping to get from this podcast? I think where people can come and just experience authenticity, and two guys who we're trying to figure it out. I mean, we don't have all the answers. We're trying to figure out how to be better men, better husbands, better fathers. We like to clown around a little bit, I feel like you and I got a good rapport of just messing around with each other. We can be serious, we can be funny. So I think just get a taste of that and hopefully make a difference in the things we talk about.
Very good. So my name's Charlie Harper. I was born right here in Louisiana. I'm married. I have 3 kids. I am a business consultant. I work with people on marketing. I also serve with a nonprofit called CEF, Child Evangelism Fellowship, and we do children's ministry all over the state and world, but my role is here in Louisiana. Let's see, for this podcast or this video series, it's really, for me, it was kind of came out of, I mean, we have conversations all the time, so I think we've talked about this, but one of the things that kind of sparked some of this was my oldest child asked me, Dad, they had some exercise at school or something, and she said, Dad, if you knew you were going to die tomorrow, what would you be doing right now? And it's a thought-provoking question, and I just told her, I said, well, we'd probably be spending time with family and friends. We'd probably have a bunch of people over at the house. We'd be having a party. We'd probably be eating some good food here, good Louisiana food. I'm sure somebody would have cooked a jambalaya or something, and or gumbo, depending on time of year. And I think we'd probably just be spending time with friends and family. And then in that same week, someone else had kind of posed a question to me, and they said, Charlie, if you had $300 million, what would you do? What would you do? And I listed a bunch of stuff that I would do, you know, pay off the house debt and, you know, maybe buy a new car and get a boat and take a trip, you know, maybe take the family to Disney, go to Europe, you know, see the Grand Canyon. And they said, great. Now, you've done all that stuff for 2 years. You've gone to the beaches, you went to Hawaii, you did all those things for 2 years. You still have $300 million. You hadn't even made a dent in the money.
Mm-hmm.
You've bought all those one-time purchases. It's a random Tuesday. What are you doing? And because, you know, most of the things that I've ever thought of are like one-time events. Like you're going to buy a boat, but it's not like you're going to be in a boat
Sure.
every day of the week. You know? So like that is going to be something that happens, and occasionally you're going to take the boat out. But like, what are you going to do with are you going to just sit on a beach for the rest of your life, or what?
Right.
And for me, I know that I didn't want to just
Sit on the beach.
sit around
Yeah.
forever. I want to, you know, do something, have purpose and meaning. But one of the things that, like, on that random Tuesday of what would I be doing on that random Tuesday, my random Tuesday, you know, 3 years in the future after getting $300 million was, you know, a cup of coffee and breakfast, you know, helping the kids get off to school, you know, spending some time with Brandy, spending time reading the Bible. Exercise would probably be part of the day, you know, going for a run or exercise in some kind of way. And then there would probably be some other types of functions, but it would probably entail lunch with a friend or coffee with a friend or going to visit grandma, or, you know, any of those types of, you know, my grandma is 84 years old, so it's like that's probably what my random Tuesday would entail. And then I was just trying to think of, like, the person that was telling me this basically said that you have a lot more margin for change in your life than you probably give yourself credit for. So if your dream scenario is driving down California highway in a red drop top convertible, okay, well, that may not be possible right now today, but you can drive down River Road with the sunroof open and the windows down, and it's still like the life-giving activities. Well, one of mine was having lunch with a friend or coffee with a friend. Well, those are I don't have to wait until I have $300 million to have a cup of coffee with a friend. So for me, this podcast, part of that is, if nobody ever watches it or whatever, it's an excuse to get together with a friend
Sure.
and have a cup of coffee and just talk about whatever's going on within life. So
You know what I just envisioned is inviting somebody to our coffee podcast, and like one of us takes the back seat and we just pop in while the person is in this seat talking. There's something you said I thought was interesting. You were describing your random Tuesday, and none of the things you said required $300 million.
good, right?
You said hang out with grandma, you know, read my Bible, hanging out with Brandy, going to eat lunch with the kids, grabbing coffee with your buddy. Like, it's just interesting that even thinking through having all this money, it's the things you want to do, you can do. Like, you make an excuse of I don't have the money or the time, but really, you got to make the time, right? You got to schedule the time. But financially, it wasn't like you described a lot of things that were expensive to do.
Yeah, time is probably the biggest thing,
Sure.
because you have to, you know, balance all these things with the activities that bring in, you know, income for your family. You know,
Yeah.
These are earning years. I'm in my mid to late 30s, so these are like the prime earning years with the
Yeah.
small kids and a young you know, a decent sized family of 5. That so that's kind of the balance of how do I. And I may not be able to do all of these things at any one given time, but I can have a cup of coffee I can make an hour to have a cup of coffee with somebody and try to be more just intentional. And I guess too, that exercise, it helps me to be honest with myself. Much of my regular life motivations come down to money. And so it's like, if you remove money off of the table, like if I didn't have to do these work things to make money, like if the money problem was solved already, then what would you be doing? And what are things that, And if the money problem was solved, you had the $300 million. Well, you don't necessarily have to do anything that you don't want to do.
Now, do you think that desire for more money can be like a crutch? So maybe you don't challenge yourself to do things because you have the financial excuse not to do it. You said your biggest motivation is money.
I think that's a large part. Yeah, that's a large part of it. I mean, so I'm also a Christian, so that's probably my primary motivator, is to make the most of what the time that God has given us here on earth, and how do I make the most of it. That the core driving principle is, how do I be a good steward, a faithful steward? How do I do a job well done, where God says, you did a good job? That's the ultimate core thing. But in the day-to-day practical stuff, I think it's easy for me, the way that I'm wired and programmed, for the money stuff to kind of creep in, to be more geared around, making money, and kind of getting off track with some of the God and relational things, and zero in more about making money. And so part of this money exercise is helping myself to be honest with my own self, of kind of like what you just said, of all those things you listed don't really require a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
Because the things I've spent most of my time thinking about is the boat, or the trip to Paris, or time at the beach, or all those things. But it doesn't cost that much money to go to Gulf Shores or Destin.
Yeah. And it's like let's say you schedule that vacation and you go on it, and the anticipation of getting there is great, and then you do it, and it's like, okay, it was a good time, and then it's over, and then you almost experience like the morning of it's over. I know a lot of friends who take, great vacations, fun vacations, but they don't seem, there's still a lack of joy, right? So it's like, even if you had the money to do the fun things you wish you could do, will those really bring the fulfillment you think they would? That's just.
Yeah. So I'll say that would be my channel introduction, podcast introduction.